Welcome to the Lifestyle CEO, a community designed for women looking to take their life into their own hands and redefine what success looks like for them.
I'm Katie, a clinical psychologist and couples therapist. I'm passionate about connecting you with the tools you need to create the life and relationship you want.
And I'm Christina, a marketing and business expert who has built her life around giving herself and those around her the ability to choose what their lifestyle looks like for them.
Together, we have created the podcast for women just like us who are looking to redefine what success looks like for them and enjoy a lifestyle that they love.
Hello.
Hello. How you doing? You look lovely.
Thank you, so do you. And as usual, your background is just looking stunning.
Yeah, very lucky on the Mornington Peninsula. It's beautiful here.
So beautiful. It looks like, is it cloudy? Is there a storm rolling in, or is that just
It is very cloudy, actually. It does look a little bit like a storm coming in. I'm not sure, but
stunning?
it's a bit moody.
Yeah, stunning. Love it. Yeah, we've had lots of storms in Bali actually, which is not that apparently it was pretty rainy during December, but we had a couple since we've been back, which I'm not mad about. It's pretty hot otherwise. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm not mad about it. England was terribly rainy. But I think I talked about this before because I've been really reflecting a lot on, and this actually relates back to our self-care episode last week as well, but um I've been trying to journal and reflect a lot on what I learnt in England and what I'd like to implement here. And one of those big things was obviously a lot of my network is in England. And because I'm still a member of a couple of membership clubs in London, I definitely did a lot more networking while I was back. Like that was one of my real key goals for being back in London, is just to start either kind of meeting up with old contacts or establishing new ones. Um, and obviously that's a bit trickier in Bali because I'm just not sure there's like maybe the business network set up as much as in London, but there's definitely more kind of creative groups, hobby groups, friendship groups, all that sort of thing. So that's really something that I want to focus on for this year. I mean, I did quite a lot of it already in Bali, but I think it's something that I really miss about living in England, and that's one of my reflections is like, how can I introduce this a bit more into my lifestyle here?
I think it's that structured network or networks by theme. So I know for me living in Bali, like just didn't have that health professional network. So there weren't other
Mm,
psychologists or health professionals, whereas here there's real structures around and it's really important that mental health professionals kind of catch up together and have what we call peer supervision. So in Bali, I think there is like a lot of networks, but it's very focused on like Bali-based business or entrepreneurial business in a different kind of way. So it's not,
mm.
yeah, I think those networks that we have at home are a little bit different, aren't they, than the ones that are available in Bali?
Definitely, and I think certainly the ones that I've found, from, like, a personal hobby perspective, they've been amazing for connecting me with people who are like-minded, because I think, networking is so underrated as a skill and as a output or as something to do with your time. I think, we've gone into this digital first world really, and obviously as much as we really really champion the flexible working movement, and I certainly am not saying people need to be in the office every day to network, I do think we need to still push ourselves to find networking events that we can go to, like
Yeah.
only ones that are obviously really aligned to what we're trying to get out of them. But I think it's more on us now as women particularly, but just as a general population, to push ourselves to go out there. Whereas if you were in the office, you'd probably do it a bit more naturally. And I just think it's a skill that's probably being forgotten a bit. And I worry that maybe with the next kind of in batch of employees coming into the workforce, that's just not something that's gonna be part of their skill set anymore.
I don't know. I feel like as a society, we're actually at a real turning point because I think that we had, obviously everything was face to face. It was very much like you go to a physical event, you catch up with people physically, you have meetings physically. And then whether you were already doing this before COVID or everyone went through that transition into COVID, we read very much online, all the networking events were online. It really seemed to stay that way. But I think as a society, we're going through a real shifting point now where people are kind of, you know, debating the balance of like work, how much we can work at home, how much we need to go in the office. But even bigger than that, I think is how much time we want to spend online versus how much time we want to spend face to face, and realizing that although there's a lot of flexibility that comes with being online, there's obviously we
Mm,
don't have all the travel, all those extra things that we need to do to get somewhere. We're missing that connection, and
mm,
I think you can, of course, connect online, but there's nothing like being in a room with people, and I think in terms of networking or being at events where there is, like, multiple different people, obviously, like, when we're aligned, we have each other's undivided attention, but if there was someone else in that room right now, I can't go up to them because
mm.
I'm dependent
You're
on you
online.
taking the screen over there. Whereas, you can make very authentic, natural connections with people where you just kind of start a conversation and there is just that connection in the moment. Or if there
Mm,
isn't, you can kind of move on to the next person. Yeah. So I
yeah.
actually think people we're gonna move more towards, hey, let's get back to face and let's have those face to face connections and use the online mediums for other things like meetings and all those things that allow the flexibility, but there's an element of needing that face to face connection.
I agree. I was actually at a really interesting event for one of our clients, when I was back in London, and they're an events agency, and they were talking about this sort of so they do a lot of events for like HR directors who are looking for internal employee engagement, and they were saying there's really interesting assumptions around what a Gen Z employee would want versus what a boomer would want, perhaps. And actually, we would assume that the boomer wants more face to face and the Gen Z wants it online, but it's kind of the opposite. Where the boomer obviously probably has more like family obligations, so actually being online is easier. Whereas the Gen Z is really craving that face to face interaction and to be able to learn from their peers, meet people, have those in depth conversations, like all of that sort of stuff. And I think you're right. There's a lot of generalized assumptions that are perhaps not correct about all these different sort of types of people and what they may want. But I definitely think, and obviously where we focus more on like the
Mm.
freelancers who we assume love the fact that they can be remote, they can be nomadic, but actually there's this real wanting for like more authentic connection, whether that's from potential clients, other freelancers, all of that sort of thing. So I agree. I think we'll definitely see more of these sort of events popping up to help people kind of with those connections, but it has to be really relevant to what they want and what they need from their specific, career or hobby or interest, whatever it may be.
I agree. I think there's a real shift from those that feeling of like, "I need to go to this event," to, "I want to go to this event,"
Yes.
and that authenticity around the relationship, so it's not just like, "I'm gonna go to this event and hand out 50 business cards." It's, "I actually wanna go to this event and connect with people who are like-minded," because there is a number of added benefits of networking. It's not just about connecting to someone for the work, so it's not just about, "I've gotta
Mm,
find my clients here." It is about, learning from people. It's about creativity. It's about having fun, and walking away feeling like your cup is full. So I think
mm.
those are the things that people are looking for when they go to those events, as opposed to just, this is another tick the box I need to do. And I'm going to try and, chat with as many people in the room as I possibly can.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's definitely a test and learn again of like what you want from an event and what works for
Mm.
you. Like I know if I was, the old style networking events where you're in these huge conference halls and it's like booths all around the edge and you can't walk 5 seconds without someone being like shoving a tote bag full of crap in your in your hands or something. You end up just going home with so much stuff and having had no conversations of any relevancy. And then, and I think if you could interlace that with some really interesting like activities on talks and opportunities for like a coffee together or something and just not make it so forced, then yeah, that would be absolutely fine. But I think there's these beautiful like niche small communities that are popping up that are doing these beautiful events where there is a bit of like icebreaker activities, I guess, but it's kind of all focused around a bit of a creative outlet or I don't know, just something fun that gets people chatting, gets people a bit more comfortable. And then there is an opportunity to talk about your business, maybe see if there's, not just necessarily a client relationship, but maybe a business partner relationship, or someone that can help you with your existing business, whatever it may be. But just do it in a much more natural, authentic way. Like, I think we don't just have to be like in our business suits, going to a business event, talking about business, it's just like, let's just make it a bit more authentic, a bit more fun, a bit more, yeah, natural, I suppose.
It's so important. It's funny, I was just thinking, because so as a psychologist, we have this thing called supervision. So supervision is like a requirement of our registration. It's kind of like PD, I guess, if I'm thinking in your language, where we get together and we talk about cases, obviously de-identified, so we don't share confidential information. But it's all about kind of upskilling us because we're in a room all day just with our clients. So there is not really a feedback process like you get in other workplaces. So this is why supervision is so important in
Mm,
terms of developing as a health professional. And so we also have this thing called peer supervision. So we might have like group supervision or we might have structured one on one supervision. But then we also have what we call peer supervision, which is, like with our peers. And again, we can still talk about cases, etc., but it may be less structured. And one of the things that I did down here before I went away was we had a small group of perinatal psychologists and we'd get together and have dinner and have those conversations.
mm,
And it's just that thing of moving it away from just being this thing, like, I guess from having one outcome. It wasn't just about the professional, it was also about the connection and also about getting together, enjoying a meal together and having those conversations and learning and doing the professional development that we needed, but in a more meaningful,
mm.
authentic, natural way. And then afterwards, having a debrief just about normal life stuff and the challenges of the work that we do and those sort of things. So I think it's really about how do you create those opportunities to connect with people that meet multiple needs and not being so focused on just one outcome,
Yeah.
because different things will meet different needs for you.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's not having an assumption or an expectation around it. Like, I think I remember the days when I worked for an agency and you would be sent off to these networking events with the aim of bringing back new business prospects. And it was so much pressure. I mean, bear in mind, I was probably only 21 at the time as well. There was so much pressure around it. And you can't really enjoy yourself then or start kind of meaningful conversations because you're literally just thinking, "Oh my god, I need to find 10 new business prospects." And it's just so stressful. And I just feel like actually a lot of the business I've had through formation and obviously even our podcast and our business with the lifestyle CEO has come from the most authentic, no expectation kind of conversations which have just naturally come to a point where it's like this makes sense. And I
Mhm.
just think it's a much nicer way of doing business, but also just building genuine connections than if you're literally just going in as a, right, must have my sales head on today. And it just all comes across so fake and like not authentic anyway. Um, so yeah,
It's making me think about dating. I know that's a weird
yeah,
segue, but,
I
how
like it.
people approach dating, like, kind of with this checklist of, like, I need to achieve this, like, the end goal being a relationship, and the person needs to have dot, 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 dot. And I think when we go into anything with those expectations and almost the expectation we're setting up is that I want this no matter what. So no matter what, I'm in. So, when you're talking about that 10 businesses that you have to find, it's like, I'm just going to find them. I don't care who they are,
Yeah.
what quality of relationship this is. But now I think as you evolve, you were obviously 21 then, or whether we're dating, we evolve, that we're actually looking for the quality of a relationship. And that applies to business too. We're looking at, we've talked before about when you have clients where it's creating more work for you than it's sort of worth because there's an extra load because it's just not a good fit. So it is about going into those situations, as you said, just open-minded and just sort of having the conversations, seeing if there's any opportunities that work for both of you to collaborate on something or to work together on something, but going in with less expectation and more exploration, more
Mm.
curiosity about, what is possible, what might work for each of us, and, just having that conversation and finding your way through it.
Yeah, and I love this, right? So I was talking to one of my friends who is in England and she is like she's kind of she's not got any children yet basically, and she was saying at our age, really, most people have got married. Well, not most people, but most of her friends anyway have got married, are starting to have children, etc. And she's just not there yet. She's got a partner, but she's just not really in that space, which is fine. And she was like, it's really hard to make friends at our age who are, really where we make most of our friends is in the school playground, to be honest. And Bali is better at it, I think, because a lot more expats are
I was
outwardly
just
looking.
picturing us actually on the school playground when you said that. It's like, when were we at the playground?
Yeah, sorry, that is such an English thing to say. The
No, I
school.
love it.
I don't even feel like I saw you at school, did I? But actually, we
No.
met through the school with whatever
Yeah, I know what you're
capacity.
saying. Yeah. We
But
should have
yeah,
gone to
so
the playground though.
no, no, I don't even think there was a playground, was there? Anyway, but what she's been doing is using, like, the apps for friendships, which is, like, I
Mhm.
think Bumble do it and stuff like that, and she's made this incredible network of like-minded women that actually want to do stuff that she wants to do, like going to the theatre, cooking, trying the new things, like going to the opera, I think they were doing, and I just feel like that's such an amazing idea, and, like, I think in our heads, we feel like it's an event that we have to go to meet people, but actually there are also really amazing online tools for networking where it's not just like a one event done. You can sort of exactly like dating, you can start chatting to people, making connections, making friends, and then taking it offline, and I think it's a bit of like, some people are like, "Oh, no, that's don't know, don't wanna try that," or whatever, but actually, I think in today's world especially, it is very difficult for people to meet genuine connections because we're just not out as much.
I love that. I think, it's so important at every age to make new connections, isn't it? And to find
Mm.
people that you have those common interests with. And I think that we can really not prioritize that enough. Like we put it to the bottom of our list. And I also think in terms of business, when we're talking about networking, it doesn't have to be those formal events. Like as you said,
Mhm.
we met just, having conversations, going to the gym together.
Yeah.
So it can be the opportunities can arise just through normal events and connecting with people and then sort of identifying that there's opportunities there with each other and seeing if that fits. But I love that she's taking that initiative and, just sort of putting herself out there and finding like-minded people because I think it's so important and something we don't
Mm.
prioritize is even if we have really good networks that we can always have new friends, and find new
Mm.
opportunities.
Exactly. And I think it's like I think I'm a bit the opposite actually. When I first came to Bali, I really was like pushing myself to attend every possible event out there. And again, another thing I realized in England is like where I wasn't really going out at all. I was just a bit like, no, I actually really like my quiet time and I like to just prioritize like what's really important to me. And I'm going to say no to a lot of other stuff. And just really figure out what my priorities are, the type of, yeah, events or people or things that I'm interested in. And then just spend some time prioritizing that rather than just feeling like, and I think when you move to a new place, it is important to do that, like explore a bit and then figure out what works for you. But like now, I'm very much like, I know what I want, I know what I like doing, and I'm just gonna focus my time on that rather than feeling completely overwhelmed with millions of things to do.
It's that balance, isn't it? And sometimes you don't like it what you're sort of saying too is that there isn't a need there for you right now, you have good networks, you have good
Mm.
friends, you're happy in your life, there's other things that you wanna be doing, so you don't need to spend so much time focused in that one area.
For sure, and I think that's actually a really good learning. It's like, if there's a specific area of your life that you need support with or that you feel like you want to grow, then look into how a network or networking might be able to support you in that and might make you feel less alone in your journey. I think especially with like freelancers and people who work for themselves, that can be quite an isolating journey. And I think we're very much kind of go a bit insular and like just got to focus on the client work, got to focus on what we're doing. But actually, having a network around you of other freelancers or other people in the industry in general can really help just, yeah, help you think outside the box, help you feel less isolated, whatever it may be.
Absolutely, and sometimes that is just, like, putting yourself in a new environment, isn't it? Like, it doesn't mean that you have to go to a big networking event, it can just
No.
be going to a co-working space or hopping out to a cafe, because it is about, I think when you are working on your own, you're spending a lot of time on your own, you need those outlets for creativity. So it is just putting yourself in new environments with new people, but it doesn't have to be an environment where, you're spending hours on a networking. It can just be an environment where you are cohabitating with people. So you're in that co-working space, and even just hearing, I think, about people's work, even if it's completely different to yours, can spark
Mm.
creativity in new ways.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's what we've lost a bit as well, is that sort of brainstorming, and just sitting down as a team to really like, you can do it online, but I just don't feel like that's the same. And I think,
No.
again, when you're working for yourself or on your own, I mean, ChatGPT is a great tool for brainstorming, by the way. But like, I love the kind of in person connection of just throwing ideas back and forward, like getting inspiration by being outside. Even like walking and talking, I really feel like helps like encourage creativity in your brain. And I think like there's so many running groups here and walking groups and book clubs and stuff, and it's sort of just figuring out like what feels good for me, what areas do I need a bit of support in or want to surround myself in with people in, and like, yeah, just sort of being brave and forcing yourself to go to them.
It's that pleasure and fulfillment, isn't it? Like, it's really doing those things that you actually want to do, I think, is so much better than going to some
Mm.
forced networking event. So as you said, whether it's like, going on joining a hiking group, or going walking together, or surfing, or whatever it may be, but putting yourself in places that maybe, even also if you don't meet anyone, it's okay because you achieve something else. So,
Yeah.
you feel good about the fact that you've done the walk, and that's something that there's kind of a need that you had. I think it's thinking about things a little bit differently now, isn't it? So sort of thinking about how can we do things that bring that joy and also meet other needs at the same time.
Yeah, and I think, like, one of my passions in life is, like, creating communities. Like, I'm just literally coming up and thinking in my head so many things like, "Oh, I could create, like, a mum's walking group and, like, a freelance" it's like all these little mini events. And I do think I was literally exactly the same point. It's just like, let's think I think before there was this real, and I'm talking about it very much from a business perspective, but there was this real thing about like, there's going to be thousands of attendees. You can pay for this booth and get millions of returns. And, you can pay to be on the stage and speak in front of this target audience, blah, blah, blah. And of course, those things exist, but slowly I'm seeing a shift of like, making them much more interactive, making it much more about kind of it's not how much you pay and like you pay to play essentially. It's all about what the
Mhm.
audience actually wants from those things, and like getting a lot more kind of community feedback and like setting it up so it's a bit more perhaps smaller but more specific to the niche. And I think that is really what people are looking for. Like, time is such a precious commodity now. People want to feel like I can go to an event, get some real value and come out, not have to spend 3 days at a conference hall trying to meet as many people as possible.
Absolutely, and sometimes it's just doing it for fun, like our Friday
Mm.
night drinks is purely for fun.
Yes.
I am
I
thinking,
love
do we need
that.
to change the name though?
Yeah, I do. I
Away
was
from the
trying to come up.
drinking. Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I agree with that. I think that's a good idea, especially after January. What do they call it? Dry January. Um, we'll come up with a name. Because I also think, like, that concept of drinks or, like, meeting on a Friday to kind of round off the week, it doesn't have to be drinking, obviously, is kind of something that everyone can replicate wherever they are. Like, especially if you're a freelancer or working by yourself, you lose that sort of office camaraderie or that team camaraderie where you could probably all I mean, I remember that was my favorite part of the week, just all going out after work and just sort of ending the week on a high. And I think that sort of connection is so important. And yeah, exactly. It doesn't have to be around drinking, but it could just be like, let's go and meet up and play some board games. Like, that's one of my favorite things to do at the moment, is just go to a board game cafe and sit around doing that. Or, God, I sound like such a nerd now. Lego board
I was gonna
games. Like,
say
what am I doing? What am I?
Lego club. Lego club,
Oh
that would
my
be
God, I
amazing.
would love that. But yeah, or like, read this story the other day about a guy who used to go to the same cafe every day reading a book. And like then someone else just sat with him and read the book together. Like it wasn't planned. He just sat with him to read his book. And then over time, the word has spread. And now there's like 40 people who just come in every day or every couple of days reading their books. They might start having a chat, but it's not organized at all. But they're all just like enjoying it because they're kind of in a shared experience. Isn't that so cute?
I love that. I love that it's just so organic and it's just, happened. And that shared space, I think it's not that we have to have a conversation, but we're just sharing the space together and being together.
Mm,
That's so lovely.
I love it.
I've really enjoyed that conversation. I think, the importance of networking has totally shifted in today's society, and what we want and need from networking is really evolving, and I'm so excited to see how that changes over time. And I think it's really important to remember that, networking is not just about finding new clients or finding new business. It's really about the connection, about those learning opportunities, that opportunity to learn from each other, to grow, to become more creative, to have that creativity sparked, and really just to enjoy it. So really being able to do things we enjoy or enjoy the connection together.
I love that. And I think it's really important just to like, as you're going about your week, perhaps after listening to this episode, just really think about how you can foster those authentic connections. Like, even if it's just, reaching out to an old colleague or attending a local event, like any interaction is an opportunity to build connections. And I think that's definitely one thing I've learned is connections come from the randomest of places. And like a year from now, you could be looking at just the most beautiful friendships, the most beautiful business connections. And you'll just kind of think back to like how random it was, how they came about, but how amazing it had been. Um, so yeah, and we'd love to hear your networking experiences and like any tips and stories you have about your good and bad experiences. If you pop onto our social media, which all the links are below. And don't forget to join us next week. And yeah, we'd love to hear from you guys. You're ready to create a life on your terms. Join us every week and make sure to like and subscribe to keep up to date with new episodes. All the links to keep in touch with us are in the bio.